So the next topic we want to discuss a little bit is the idea of mentoring across gender. And I'm just curious, I think from my perspective, I'm curious about, is there a benefit? Is it ideal to have someone of a different gender as a mentor? Are there pitfalls? Are there things that I should be worried about in doing that? What role does gender play in mentoring?
Well, in some mentoring relationships, it's irrelevant, and in some, it plays a huge difference, a huge role. I think one of the concerns, women are usually looking to other women as mentors. They want women to be their mentors. It's understandable because the assumption is that women will understand their situation. They don't have to explain a lot of things. They'll have similar worldviews. They'll have similar experiences. And so that's what they're looking for. On the other hand, men tend to gravitate to relationships with people like them. This is kind of human nature. We want to be in relationships with people where we have a lot in common. And we start out looking at the obvious things that are similar. So it might be race or gender or age or anything else. But there are some problems with that. One has to do with we're making assumptions based on stereotypes. We assume that every woman, and by the way, I did some research probably 15 years ago now on what makes an effective mentoring relationship across gender and across race. And what we found was that men and women were looking to have women mentors when they were concerned about work-life issues, concerned about behavioral things, concerned about kind of expectations about how to behave when they didn't want just an aggressive, assertive model. And realize that's based on an assumption that all women are going to be, interested in these softer kinds of issues, and all men are going to be assertive and aggressive and, kind of the bulldog approach. And so we don't realize that even what we think is favorable is based in bias. And so the better way of looking at this is, what is it that I need? If what I need is work life, how to manage my work and my life, what I need is somebody who does that or who's willing to talk about it. And it might be a man as much as it is a woman, and there might be women who don't want to talk about it and shouldn't have to talk about it. And, and so the issue isn't about gender. It's who can help me with the things I want help with. One of the problems that comes up has to do more as you get more senior in your career and as you start looking to advance, not simply to learn the basics and the fundamentals of how to be a good lawyer, but now I want to move up to the next level. I want a bigger bonus. I want more responsibility. I want to be a partner or a leader. And for that, you need the sponsoring kind of mentorship. And mentorship deals both with the professional development aspect of your career, but also with the advancement part of your career. When you get into the advancement side, you need a different kind of mentor. You need someone who has some power or influence and ability to, if not guarantee the right assignment or the right introduction, or the right an increase in your bonus, at least somebody who can influence that and who has a good shot at pushing it through for you. So you need a different kind of person, and that person shouldn't be based on gender and these other demographic features. What you want is, again, someone who can help you in the area where you need help, and someone who's got the ability to influence that happening.
What about on the mentor side? What about on the flip side? So, for instance, I've heard male mentors in particular, older men who are in the profession, who are sometimes reluctant to take on women as mentees because they feel that they may be setting themselves up not to be as frank with that person. So, for instance, if I'm a male and a male associate comes into my office and they're not dressed appropriately for court, I can call them out on that, and I feel like I'm likely not to hear about that again. there's a whole segment of men, I think, in our profession that would say doing that with a female associate is dangerous, is asking for trouble, or it sets me up for that dynamic. And I'm curious. I personally don't buy that. I think there are ways around it, but I'm curious if you've had people talk about that, or if you have advice for folks about how to deal with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's real. It's not, just based on nothing. I mean, there are a lot of men who are worried that they're setting themselves up for a lot of different things, saying the wrong thing, being accused of being a sexist, being accused of harassment or something. And so they're very reluctant to do this. And it goes back to, when I was saying that you need somebody with a little power. Well, if you take a look at the leadership of any legal organization, most of the people with any power are men. And so for women, and they tend to be champions for other men, in part because of exactly the discomfort that you're talking about. And so women need to have more men as mentors and sponsors. And the challenge is that while women today can find mentors, they can find mentors through the Washington State Bar, they can find them in their firms or in some other organization. But the problem is the mentors they find can help them with the professional development piece. What's missing is this champion with some power. And so they have to find men, not just men. Obviously, there are women with power, and those women can help them also. But given how many women want that kind of help and how many men could benefit from a female champion, it's unfair to place all of the burden of sponsoring all of these women and some men on women who are in a minority to begin with. So we need to make it easier and more comfortable for men, senior men, who are the most powerful people, to be sponsors and mentors to younger women. And frankly, there are a lot of young women who are also reluctant to be in that relationship because they're worried about not misreading signals, about spending an awful lot of time alone with somebody who's more powerful, that they might not be able to be open enough, or that there may just be a difficulty in communicating and in the relationship. So are there ways of getting around that? Of course.
Do you have thoughts about what are those moderating ways?
Yeah, I mean, one is, first of all, to send out signals that this is a professional relationship. We're here in a professional setting. This isn't, you can sometimes develop friendships. With mentors, some people become good friends and they last a lifetime, and some, it's over when it's over. And the point is that this is about your professional life, your professional development. So maintaining a professional authority, a sense of authority, and authenticity also is important. Being who you are, but recognizing that this is within a professional setting on both sides. Making sure, first of all, I should even go back before that. The first thing is not to make assumptions, as it is with any differences, to recognize that if you're thinking that a woman has a certain kind of attitude or wants a certain thing, what happens a lot is the assumption that women want to stay home and have babies once they get pregnant. So why would I make an investment in this woman who's just going to be gone in a couple of years and isn't going to be as serious about her career? That's an assumption that may not be conscious, it may not be at the top of mind, but it may influence the way you choose the people you assist. And so being careful to be aware, to try to be aware of any assumptions that are keeping you back, and not letting that interfere with the relationship. Or somebody who is a young woman looking to work with a senior man, assuming that because he's powerful, he can't answer. You don't want to bring certain questions to him because he's too important and too busy to want to help you, and so you hold back and you don't say, what I really want is to be, I want to be a partner, and then 5 years from now, I want to run this practice group, right? A man might not have any trouble saying that, but women have a very difficult time talking about their ambitions because socially they're conditioned or they get pushback when they do seem to be ambitious. And so for both people to recognize that you need to start by being open with each other in an honest way about what your ambitions are, how I can help you, those kinds of things are really important to get past the initial discomfort. So, that is a big part of it, and being, recognizing that you're there to learn, you're there to grow professionally, and I'm there as a mentor to help you in that regard, and trying to focus on those things. There are a lot of other things that we can talk about, but I think those are some of the key items.
What I hear you saying, core, is really kind of curiosity and transparency. Really, being curious about what the other's experience is, but also being transparent about intentions, being clear about why certain things are recommended, or what the course is. And I think it's really interesting, particularly when you were talking about women asking for what they want in terms of that. There's some great sociological studies out there about what jobs men will apply for as opposed to women. I think what most of those studies say for the most part is men, if they meet 60% of the qualifications, they think they're in the ballpark and in the running, and women, when they did those studies, statistically speaking, most women think they have to have it all together, so that willingness to risk. And I think it's important for men that are in those positions to really recognize that there are some differences, and to, as a mentor, part of your job is to help bridge those, and to help make offers, and not to make assumptions that everyone's going to respond that. Statistically, that's what that means. It means that there's a whole bunch of people that don't respond that way, but to really spend the time to get clear with your mentee, regardless of gender, about what it is that they might need help with, and then to help them bridge that, or maybe even just help them realize that they need that. The issue of sponsoring is huge.
Right, and another piece of this is educating yourself about implicit bias and the unconscious biases that we have, both about other people but also about ourselves. And some of those things have to do with the way women are taught or think they should behave. And just this point of self-advocacy that we've been talking about, and how do you stand up and say, this is what I need, this is what I deserve. What we know is that it's easy to tell women to do that, but a lot of women are punished because of that. They're seen as too whatever, right? Too unfeminine, too aggressive, too self-important. And so after you get beat down a few times when you speak up, you start to think that maybe there's something wrong with you. And so having some solidarity, some people around you who can support you, and having some understanding on both sides, men and women, about the way we interact with people of opposite sex. And, we haven't even touched upon some of the more fluid definitions of gender today, which is making it complicated, and a lot of people saying, oh my God, I just don't want to have to deal with this at all. I'm going to stick with the people I know and the people I'm comfortable with, and then I don't have to be bothered. And so, we've all, as a profession, put our head in the sand and learned to be very good about it.
Well, even folks who take that position sometimes find out that people that they thought were who they thought they were are different. And then what, well, that's not a viable option either, to just ignore it. When you were mentioning implicit bias, one thing that, the implicit assumptions test is out there. It's a great thing to go do. It takes 5 minutes. And you can kind of feel some of your own assumptions. But the other that came out of that research that I really encourage, particularly mentors and particularly men, quite frankly, to do is some acculturation. Read literature about women who are moving up in the profession. Read what that pathway looked like. Try to understand a little bit what that's like, because that will help reduce some of those implicit biases. And in the end, I think it makes us better attorneys in general to be able to understand those perspectives.